The simple truth. Love your enemies. One of the things that is immensely trying to me is all the people in our world who genuinely hate the church. I spend most of my life working in the church, and I am surrounded by people who love others and genuinely want to do good. Are they flawed? Absolutely, but so am I. I wish that weren't true, but it's a shame that I freely admit. I'm not talking about people who disagree. That will always exist. It kind of has to. Because when two people believe opposite things to be true, one of them has to be wrong. That should be the time to enter into the arena of ideas, so that we can have a conversation, maybe win each other over, or at the very least learn to disagree agreeably. I'd love that. But that's not what I am talking about. No, I'm talking about the hatred I see nearly every day on social media. The news and just out on the streets, it's venomous and seething, and sometimes it makes me want to be venomous and seething right back. But then I think about this guy named Saul. Saul was a really religious guy in his own right, but he hated the church. He hated it so much that he got permission from the authorities to track down believers and lock them up for the purpose of having them put to death. What is strange is he wasn't doing this because he was a bad guy. No, he was doing this because he saw the church as an existential threat to his faith and his way of life. He thought that persecuting the church was doing the right thing. He was one of the people Jesus spoke about when he said, "The time is coming when anyone who kills you will think they are offering a service to God." That was Saul. The church was a threat to be defeated. That's what he thought. But one day it all changed. He was traveling to Damascus with a freshly printed warrant in his pocket. He was one step closer to eradicating the church, when suddenly he was blinded by a bright light, and he heard a voice saying, "Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me?" Saul was astonished, and he asked, "Who are you, Lord?" And in one of the great oh shoot moments in the Bible, he heard the response, "I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting." It may have been an oh shoot moment, but it also was a turning point. Saul did a 180 that day. Jesus turned him around and even changed his name. Today we know this great persecutor of the early church as the Apostle Paul, and maybe that's the point. An encounter with Jesus turned the church's most malevolent persecutor into its greatest evangelist. Let that color the way you see your opponents. Some of the people who are opposing the church the most strongly could end up leading it. So we have to watch how we oppose those who oppose us. They are not our enemies. The spiritual forces behind them are the problem, which means it's a spiritual battle, and spiritual battles are fought with spiritual weapons. Maybe that's why Jesus told us to love our enemies and pray for our persecutors. What we see are people's outward actions. God sees more. Today I pastor a church and travel all over the country preaching God's word. But if you had told anyone, including me, when I was in my 20s and early 30s that this was the path God had for me, they would have laughed in your face, and the one laughing the loudest would have been me. Yet here I am. Friends, the life and conversion of Paul shows us we need to take Jesus seriously and pray for the people who oppose us for 3 reasons. First, because Jesus said so. That really should be the only reason Christians need. Secondly, because if someone is opposing you because you belong to God, they are living their life in opposition to God. And anybody who would oppose the God of the universe to his face is in dire need of prayer. Thirdly, remember Paul. At one point was Saul, a guy who thought he was doing the right thing, but was opposing God to the point of violently oppressing the church. Needless to say, he was headed in the wrong direction, but look what happened. Saul became Paul, the church's greatest human opponent, became its greatest evangelist. This shows us something every believer should already know. Nothing is impossible for God, and no one is too far fallen to be of use to God. So love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. The truth is, we never know what God will do in someone's life.
But we know he is always at work in this world, and that his plan and purpose are good and right and true. And that is the simple truth.